Hello everyone. In this quick video, I'm going to show you how you can determine the present value of some known amount that you're getting into the future, where it's also known how many years ahead in the future you're going to get that amount in, right? So T is known. And let's suppose it's also known what is the annual rate that you're going to be getting, or what is the periodic rate that you can get as well. Let me illustrate using an example. So let's suppose that it is your 13th birthday and your uncle is feeling really happy for you, and he says, look, I promise that I'll give you $5,000 on your 18th birthday, which is basically 5 years from today. Okay, so this means that in the future, 5 years from now, you're going to get $5,000 from your uncle. And this means that in the future you have 5,000, and also this is 5 years out into the future, so T is 5. Let's suppose that the banks are paying an annual interest rate of 6%, so you know that R is 6%. And please make sure that in Excel you enter this R as a percentage, so either enter 6% or enter 0.06. Do not just enter 6. This Excel works differently from financial calculators. You must enter the interest rate as a percentage or a decimal. Okay, so now that you've entered 6%, the question is, how much is this $5,000 worth to you today? In other words, what is the present value of this amount? Now, it is not necessary for you to lay out the problem like this, where you're separately showing what is the future value, or T or R. But it's usually helpful for starters to do this so that you can appreciate what formula needs to be used to tackle the problem, what are the inputs that are known, and then what is it that you need to find out. So it kind of helps you frame the problem. Okay, so it turns out that in Excel there's a very convenient function or formula which is present value. So if you enter equal to and then present value, it invokes the present value functionality, and if you open the parentheses, this formula basically says, okay, first tell me what is the interest rate, and now you know that the interest rate here is 6%, so you can just give cell reference to this cell right here, and you're done. Now you could have entered 0.06 directly as well. That's perfectly fine, but it's usually good practice to sort of make use of these cell references in Excel, especially if the values are sort of laid out for here for you already. Okay, so you give the cell reference for rate, you press comma. The next thing that Excel asks you is for number of time periods, NPER, which is basically T over here. So you give cell reference to this 5 over here. And again, you could have entered 5 directly as well. I'm sorry, 5 directly. But again, good practice to give sort of a cell reference. Why is it a good practice? Because then if somebody says, oh, your uncle comes and says, look, I'll give it to you 4 years from today, all you have to do is just change 4 over here and it will change the number over here. But anyway, that's a whole separate issue. Okay, so now when you press comma, it asks you for PMT, which is payment. Now, payment in Excel basically stands for regular cash flows. So in other words, if your uncle said, look, I'm going to give you $5,000 every year for the next 5 years, which would be great, by the way, but he's not saying that. But in case he said that, then that would constitute as a payment, because it would be regular $5,000 every year for the next 5 years. In this case, we're just being promised one $5,000 amount 5 years from now. So payment, don't worry about it. Just go past it, press comma once again. Finally, what is it that you're getting in the future? So FV stands for future value. Well, that's 5,000. So all you have to do is just give cell reference to this guy right here. And now don't worry about type. We'll tackle this in some other problems. Here, it doesn't matter. Now, if you just close the parentheses and press enter, you get 3736.29. A couple of things to note. First, you might get a different format over here. I've already formatted this sort of cell, so it's displayed in this manner. One thing that you will see is that the present value number will come out as a negative number. So it's in red and in parentheses. That's because it's a negative. Don't worry about that. The way Microsoft Excel works is that if the present value is a negative number, the future value has to be a positive number, or vice versa. If the future value is a positive number, the present value has to be a negative number. I'll explain this in another video as to why that is the case, but basically it's about one number being an outflow and the other being an inflow. Main point is this: you can ignore the fact that this is coming out as a negative. you're basically saying that the worth of that $5,000 to you today is $3,736.29. So that's the present value. And so this is how you can use Microsoft Excel to determine the present value of any known amount that you're going to get into the future. Simply make use of the present value formula, enter the rate, the number of time periods, and in this case there's no payment for problems like these. Just enter the future value and you're done.